It can't be for me.
It's a feed from me. It's my voice and something I played earlier.
It can't be for me.
It's a feed from me. It's my voice and something I played earlier.
It can't be for me.
It's a feed from me. It's my voice and
I'm ready when you are.
It
can't be for me.
Let me try to be. It's my voice and
I'm ready when you are.
What the hell?
It can't be for me.
Let me try to be. It's my voice and
I'm ready when you are.
What the hell?
It can't be for me.
Let me try to be. It's my voice. You ready when you are, Dan?
I'm ready when you are.
Did you hear it? You ready when you are, Dan?
I'm ready when you are.
Did you hear it?
Hold
on, let me see what's going on here. You ready when you are, Dan?
I'm ready when you are.
All right, I think I fixed it. Could you just say something real quick?
Testing 1, 2, 3.
All right, I think we're okay. Jesus.
Okay.
All right.
Ready to go.
Ready to go. All right. Hello, everybody. Just as a reminder before we get started, this channel is for educational or perhaps entertainment purposes only. It's always important to do your own research, come up with your own conclusions. And so, yeah, I want to welcome Dan back, our good friend of the channel. How you doing, brother? Great to have you.
Great to be here. Hi, everybody.
Hey. So we got a interesting topic that we're gonna go over. We're gonna go over telepathy, more specifically the telepathy tapes, and it's a really interesting study that's been going on in the background, and it kind of adds things that we already further knew or further had been aware of. At least many of us have by researching on our own. And telepathy and ESP, psi, all this stuff has been around for a long time, and humans have been aware of it. Sorry, I had some music ticking in the background, but we're okay. So anyways, looking forward to diving into this, and I think I'm probably going to go into it a little deeper, like in a series. It'd be interesting to maybe have you back to discuss it if that's something you're interested in, Dan, but we could talk about that later. But just to kind of give people an idea of exactly what it is. So this is the website. It's called, oh, here we go. It's called the telepathytapes.com. And if you go down, you can read what it's about. It says, in a world that often dismisses the extraordinary as mere fantasy, the telepathy tapes dare to explore the profound abilities of non-speakers with autism, individuals who have long been misunderstood and underestimated. These silent communicators possess gifts that defy conventional understanding, from telepathy to otherworldly perceptions, challenging the limits of what we believe to be real. For years, their parents and teachers have quietly witnessed these remarkable abilities, knowing that the time to share their truth would eventually come. But now, as the evidence mounts, the time has come to reveal what has been hidden in plain sight. This groundbreaking series challenges everything we think we know about communication and the human mind, inviting viewers to step into a reality where the impossible is not only possible, but happening every day. Through emotional stories and undeniable evidence, the telepathy tapes offer a fresh perspective on the profound connections that exist beyond worlds. Traveling with neuroscientist Dr. Diane Hennessy Powell, witnessing mind-boggling telepathy tests, and forging deeply intimate relationships with families around the globe, host Sky Dickens invites you to contemplate the world through the eyes of those who speak without words. Prepare to be captivated, challenged, and ultimately transformed as the series shines a light on the untold capabilities of those who have been underestimated for far too long. So that's a great introduction to kind of what this is about. And Dan, so why don't you, what are your thoughts? I know we both kind of been diving into this, so it's a really interesting study that's been happening, and it just furthers kind of what we already know.
Right. So I started a little while back. I'm on part 8 now. I started a series on my channel, Superpowers in Real Life Research. And I started it because everything in the material realm here is regulated to death, right? We can't do anything without permission, even stuff that we're told we have rights to do. And as someone who always was like a big comic book fan when I was little and intrigued by the whole superhero type story, and stories of or data that suggests that there are, supernatural things we can do here in the earth realm as human beings. I started this research project because, there's stuff like telekinesis, um, aerokinesis, all kinds of abilities that people have shown to have, or you can develop them, especially telekinesis. There's all books and series on how to develop that kind of stuff. And this led me down this rabbit hole of uh, this kind of thinking because you can't really, the people in charge of the psychos in charge of this world cannot really regulate the supernatural. They would try, though. I guarantee you, if we lived in a world similar to like the MCU, there would be a registration act. They would have uh, some type of clamping down on people with supernatural abilities if it got into the open, like where it was just known and commonplace. In this journey of research, where I was doing it basically to help people. If we could break through with some of this stuff, then you could use it for enlightenment, information gathering, self-defense. There's all kinds of things that you could do with abilities once you penetrate into the supernatural. So this led me down a rabbit hole. Eventually, I came across this telepathy research that I had not heard about. Um, and when I started looking into it, I started realizing just how beyond near death experiences, beyond the OB data, beyond um, telekinesis data, beyond all that, that materialism is so incredibly broken. You have to believe, you have to
Yeah.
be absolutely ignorant to still cling on to this philosophy. And
Yeah.
these scientists do their best to cling on to materialism when it's so broken. And this telepathy tapes deal is possibly the most incredible thing that I came across in my research because we're not talking about you put a little piece of tinfoil under a glass bowl, and then if you focus on it long enough, and if you practice, you can make it move left and right or spin around. I mean, that's basically the extent that we've seen with telekinesis. But we're talking about, X-Men level sci-fi, full-blown telepathy. Like they can read minds.
And the
Uh,
accuracy is insane. It's
yeah,
near 100. It's as close to 100% as you get. It's like 95, basically 100%.
yes. So ironically, in comic book style, this came about in kind of like an accidental way. And we have to be very careful about how we explain it because, of the things that we're not supposed to talk about. So obviously there's been a rise in people with autism in the last several decades, a huge rise. And I think people out there know why that is. This is similar to the near death experience stuff, right? So before like the 1970s, people were, when they dropped dead, they were dead. There was very little chance of you recovering from certain conditions before, the defibrillator was commonplace and CPR became commonplace. And thanks to like Raymond Moody, Dr. Raymond Moody, we began like a journey of data accumulation about this near-death experience stuff, and then we have a ton of it. Same thing with autism. Before a certain time period, it was kind of rare. But even though it was rare, you find out in these telepathy tapes and the documentary thing I sent you that some people were aware of it in the 80s, that autistic people were telepathic, but nobody would listen to
Same
anybody.
thing with like twins, right? You know, right, like other savants who might not even have autism. I mean,
Right.
the twin thing has been known for a very long time. I'd say way before even the 80s, but the problem is it's like getting these types of real tests, and then not just that, like especially today, like getting funding, being able to have this project move forward in the way it did is just great, because as you said, it's just like a huge nail in the coffin for materialism. I mean, it is amazing how these cross, like with our other research. It's particularly
Oh yeah.
about spirit, deceased loved ones and intervention with matrix marketing department beings. And
Yeah,
I mean,
Matrix,
it's
the public
uh,
relations,
yeah. And then,
PR department. Right?
yeah. And then
Yeah.
the different languages, like how some of them, at 4 or 5 years old, know like 8 languages or something, or 3, 4 languages. And have reading and math comprehension beyond belief. I mean, uh, all sorts of stuff. I mean, we're gonna dive further into this, but I don't want to jump ahead too much.
Oh,
But
yeah, sure.
yeah,
Now, on that point, before I forget, in case I forget later, uh, it's amazing to me, though, these people now that are involved in these telepathy tapes clearly have broken a threshold, and now they understand something fantastical about our consciousness. And yet, with all the clues and right in front of them, they still fail to see the obviousness of the problem here. If you can simply, with your consciousness, access, like in some of those telepathy tapes, you just look at foreign writing and then pull the entire language comprehension for that language in an instant, right from the astral cloud or the akashic records or wherever they're pulling it from. And some 8-year-old can then now completely understand hieroglyphics or a
nuts.
completely foreign language, and then still not see the problem with the human condition. If
Uh,
that's a thing, then why aren't we allowed to do it? If we're because they bring up the loving God, it's all love, it's all light. Well, if it's all love and light, why may I be prevented from accessing information that makes the internet look like some ancient piece of useless technology? Because if I could just pull all data from everywhere about everything at my disposal, then I should be able to, instantaneously know things. And then how many problems in the world we solve just by that talent alone?
yeah, that's gonna go to even something I'm gonna talk about later. I mean, but that's the problem. It's not allowed. So I think
Right.
once they open kind of this doorway, it's not going to be. It's not going to be, how do you put it? It's not going to be big. It's big news for those who are kind of paying attention and not stuck in the everyday mundane materialistic type of vortex. But as far as it being something that's gonna blow the lid off the matrix, I don't think the system's ever gonna allow it. And if it
Nope.
does, like they're trying to get funding for like an in-depth documentary series and stuff, and they probably will get it, but and from what I heard, they're being really careful about vetting how that's all going to be presented. But you could just bet on it that there's going to be an opposing side that's going to shit on it somehow, no
Well, they
matter
already have.
how good the
They already
data is.
started.
Nah.
Yeah. I mean, this whole thing, I had to go look it up. This whole, was it Asia, Russia?
Mm.
It's basically the people that have designated themselves the authorities of communication. And so, in case people out there don't know, spelling words out to communicate is not communication.
Nope. No, it's
Right.
true.
So just to backtrack just a little bit to get people caught up, a little bit more in this. We had an explosion in the number of autistic people in the last several decades, and I think we all know why that happened.
Well, we're
And
not going there.
right, but it's accidental. It's probably accidental, an unintended result of the autism is telepathy.
Isn't that incredible? It's like you have the blowback that it's well,
It's
we got yeah.
straight out of a comic book, right?
It
The
is.
accident leads to the superpower, right?
Exactly.
Right? The accident leads to the superpower. And then you have this second event because this goes completely unnoticed by the parents for decades. They buy into whatever the so-called experts tell them, and then 2020 happens, and they happen to be spending a whole bunch of time with their kids now because they can't go anywhere. And then they start realizing their children are telepathic,
Yeah.
and not just a little telepathic. Like they can read every thought, everything. They can see into another room. They can see blindfolded. I mean, off the charts. Genuine, what you would call a superpower. And as I'm listening to all this stuff, I'm just going to paraphrase some of this stuff. It
Eh,
appears to me, and it's just my own personal analysis
And
based on the information.
before you
Yeah.
start, Dan, can you just kind of adjust your mic? Maybe like twist your right ear, just like so it keeps hitting your shirt a little bit, getting a little
Oh,
feedback.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry. Yeah.
that's all right. That's all right.
Yeah. So, what was I saying? I lost my train of thought now.
If you just twist like your ear bud on your right ear, just like I think what up, it'll kind of make it so it's not hitting the shirt. There you go. That's a little better. Try that.
what was I saying?
There we go. Cool.
I lost my
I'm
train of
sorry.
thought.
Sorry about that, man.
Um, the oh God, now it's gone. Yeah,
You know,
I
I lost track of it too. I'm sorry.
um,
I was trying to find a right spot to mention it, but there wasn't one.
let me backtrack again. So let me try to catch up to where I was. So you have
Now you're kind of. I think I don't know what's going on with it. Just try to
let
keep
me
it
know.
still. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Nah, that's good. Yeah.
So these people are spending unbelievable amount of time with your children at home. They have discovered that your children are.
I'm sorry, Dan. It's coming through horrible, man. I'm so. Do you have a headset by any chance?
This is a headset.
No, like one with a mic on it. I'm sorry.
No, I don't.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Just let go of it. Let it dangle. Just let it dangle. Let's see it. There you go. Try that. There.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Much better. I'm sorry, guys. Sorry, Dan.
the time at home it reveals this genuine superpower that they actually have genuine, like true superpowers. We're not talking about just a little bit of telepathy here or the occasional like remote viewing or and you kind of get the gist of what's going on. These people can read word for word minds. They can communicate back and forth, and they even seem to be able to. They're sort of like based on the description they were providing. To me, it seems like because it's got to do with fine motor control. This is why some of these autistic people have like these movement controls. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the ability to speak requires uh, fine motor control, which is affected. Unfortunately, it's a price that they pay for their powers. Seems to be a price paid. Some of them, of course, function at a different level than others, but there's some kind of price that they pay for this switch off. And listening to the way they describe it, to me, it seems like it's because they are half in the astral at all times, and they're not able to like drive the human body as uh, easily as like I can because I'm kind of grounded into the material and my ability to access the astral is very limited. And they seem to be like really like half there, half here.
Yeah.
And some of them don't even seem to be able to be aware of their bodies. They're not aware. It's almost like if I put you in a car and blindfolded you and then tied one arm to like the door up to the armrest or something and then say, here, drive the car. I mean, you're gonna kind of be all over the place. And that seems to be like something that's possibly going on because they appear to be able to meet up with other autistic people in what appears to be like an astral realm that they call the hill.
Yeah.
And there's many of these hills, and this is like shocking information that I didn't know about until just recently as I'm doing my superpowers in real life research. And it's really wild that this was kept under wraps for as long as it was.
Totally
Um,
agree. It's crazy.
I mean, if people take the time to listen to these telepathy tapes and to watch that one video that I've linked to in the last two videos on my channel about this, they will be blown away. It's mind blowing. I don't see how you can't, but never underestimate the cognitive dissonance of people. Right? They
Absolutely. Yeah.
even with all this, materialism will go on. It will go on. It will be um, something that it will find a way to survive. And the matrix doesn't have too much to worry about. The system will not be broken. People are very dense. They're very, very dense.
And very well trained.
Yeah. And these autistic telepaths also have quite great access to the astral realm, where they can talk to what they think are dead relatives. They can speak to angelic beings or other supernatural entities or deities. I mean, they are definitely like half here, half over there. So
Yeah, and it's interesting how it's even broken up by age group. Um and there's kind of like a mix of different uh individuals there. Like it's and we're going to kind of dive into that a little bit deeper with a clip and stuff like that, but the hills aspect is fascinating. And we were just talking about this earlier on the phone before we went live, that how it's got all the hallmarks of the Matrix marketing department and the training and bringing information back here. It's even got the deceased loved ones, and it's incredible how if you think about how the age group thing is broken down, that just feels like a subdivision of training within those brackets. You know, it's like, okay, well, we're going to funnel a certain amount of individuals here, and there's going to be this training, and then we're going to, as you kind of progress in your gnosis and as in your training, then you'll be sent to another hill and go about your training there, bring back that information, and who knows exactly how that's all playing out and the scale of it. That's kind of an interesting thing that's like in the back of my head. Like, what's the scale of this? What's the input and interaction that these children bring back, or adults bring back, and apply it to the real world, which may have ripple effects in the kind of matrix world of the earth realm. So and there's even more we can dive into, but it's really fascinating stuff. And it's I think it's incredible how it just everything just connects again, like all this stuff just fits like a glove.
yes, the astral entities that these telepaths encounter have the same exact messaging as you find in near-death experience, in out-of-body experience, in DMT trips. It's the same. It's the same, but it also has all the same clues. I just don't see how people can't see it after a while. Like
Wow.
they peddle the love and light message, but we live in a world that is not a love and light world. So it doesn't. I mean, it just takes a little bit of critical thinking. It doesn't take that much, I don't think, to figure out what's going on, unless you're stuck in one of these um, dogmas and doctrines of a religion, or you're stuck in materialism, and
Yeah.
you have to have that philosophy make sense for you. You have to have your religion be true, because it can't be not true, and then you will go out of your way to keep that alive, despite all the evidence to the contrary, despite all the evidence that, this is a reincarnation soul farm, it's a loose farm. You just have to. You were very powerful, conscious beings. Only this level of deception would be necessary if we are really powerful and not controllable. If we become aware of what's going on, so we're kept asleep, we're kept in amnesia, and then when you pass on, you have an opportunity to get out if you assert your sovereignty and your power, which is immense and possibly unlimited. I don't think
Seems like it.
the yeah, and then you just have to use your imagination to conjure anything you want, appear as anything you want to appear as. The astral is a place where anything that you can imagine becomes real. So we enter it in a submissive state with amnesia. A lot of people are, submissive to authority. They don't question it. They pass on, and then they become submissive to these entities who, whatever they tell them, oh, they say it was all love, and it's all about love. See, well, if it's all about love, then explain this earth to me. Then if it's all about love, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
and
would you?
and yeah, and even the studies talk about how sometimes the the children experiencing this, they're not always having a positive experience. Like they made sure to let everyone know that. And that but they have great experiences too. And then of course there's like the frustration level, right? Between not being able to communicate these things, but it's really awesome to see that this doorway is opening for communication between parents and children for nonverbal autistic individuals. And so, but like an example I was listening to, I'm sure you heard it too, where the doctor was talking about how, um, a child will get scared or freaked out when they're conveying to their parents or something about maybe there's like a lady or a man or some being in their room or wherever they're seeing it, and then the parent is saying no, it's not there, and that freaks them out. It's like, okay, well, the child's what their child is seeing in reality differs from what their own parent is seeing. So, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but either way, it's like there's this confusion there because the perception level, the amount that the child is tuned in differs greatly compared to the parent.
Yeah, yes, yeah, yeah. Because of course that would freak them out. I mean,
Yeah.
they don't even understand what's going on. Here they
No.
are for decades now. All these, well, even before we had a big blow up in the autistic population, uh, I'm sure autistic people have had these abilities every time, going way back to whenever,
It
this
started, yeah.
phenomenon it started. And well, if you go back far enough, you'll find, oh, it's a witch, burn it.
Oh, I know that oh, it's demonic. Everything's demonic.
Everything's
That's
demonic. It's a
that
witch. Oh God!
that's
And I mean, it's just so unbelievable. We're so, I mean, just unbelievable. It's just,
yeah.
uh, and I yeah, and of course, there's a lot of deception. And then like part two of the video I made on my channel, about this was, telepathy and deception, because I wanted to first talk about the discovery in a short video, and then I want to talk about the reception part. Um, there's no uh, nothing that I can tell. If there's any form of communication that has ever existed that cannot also include a method for deception within it. So telepathy is probably no different. We are just victims of amnesia. We are victims of being having our consciousness reduced down through our own choice because we decided to incarnate here because we thought, from a naive point of view, I think that this was going to be an interesting experience, and we couldn't really grasp. From the non-physical, I think it's really hard to grasp what actual suffering is, except maybe in a kind of a um, and like an analytical way or something. Like we kind of grasp the words, but not the actual suffering part. And then we decide to incarnate here, and now we have amnesia, where our consciousness is reduced to this pathetically low level. We are occupying these horribly designed bodies, and
Mhm.
then you have all of that compounded on one on top of the other. You know what I'm saying. You understand?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah. And I I try to think about the pre-birth planning and all this, right? Like do you think well, I wouldn't say do we think. I said it seems like it's pretty much a foregone conclusion based on the data that, this is something that they are going to be aware of before they come down here. And it's like, okay, well, you're going to have the less ability through the meat suit, which is being able to verbalize and communicate through words, through voice. But you're going to, on the flip side, you're going to have this incredible ability that most don't have or most aren't able to tap into is consistently and regularly is you're able to. So it's like something in the back of my mind. Um, and it's it's fascinating and heartbreaking at the same time because I can't imagine coming here and being surrounded and by all these individuals out there and family, friends, whether you're traveling, going to the grocery store, to school, and not having like a key component to being human. I mean, it's really sad. And of course,
Well,
we're not going to go down the road of the reasoning, like, we kind of hinted at it earlier and all that stuff and the evil that's behind all that. But I can't help but think about the pre-birth planning and the life script aspect to this, and it's like, oh
well,
man, it's just so wrong.
like I said, telepathy can include a deception. You can deceive people. It's no different than any other form of communication.
Mm.
When you're as a human, even if you get it back, with like the autistic people, or if you're in a near-death experience, you're going to not be adept at that communication because you don't remember it. You can't remember the natural state of just pure consciousness, and you have also the Matrix sales department. And so what happens in pre-birth memories? At best, you get like a trailer of what your life will contain, right? Like uh, I guess they may base that on the probability of events based on where you're incarnating as, if you even get to pick. Some people are just shot into like a roulette wheel, right? They just like in Robert Monroe's books and other books where they show you kind of like the entry director and the process that you go through to incarnate here on Earth. uh, some spirits are in a very, it's just like when you're setting up something on your computer and you
Mm.
get the 33-page terms of service. And that's
33
kind of like,
pages.
whatever it is, 100 pages, it's infinite scrolling. I mean, you can never read the whole thing. Even if you read it, it's all in legalese. You don't understand what the hell it says. And then you have to click to agree and then click, submit, and then you're in, right? And you get the to use the product, or the product gets to use you. And then same thing with incarnation, right? So you get like it was even crystal clear in Moreau's books, an overwhelming amount of data about what he was getting himself into, and he was very excited and kind of like, when you buy a car. I mean, I'm sure that, I mean, not everybody can relate to this, but if you ever bought a car, and especially if it's a new car, it's the car you want, and it looks great, and then they have you sign an insane amount. It's like an encyclopedia of freaking paperwork with those super long forms with microscopic print. Nobody reads it. I mean, it seemed ridiculous that even that they'd be even considered a legal contract.
Mm.
Nobody reads it. You
No, no,
sign it, and
yeah, it's
you're
bullshit.
tired, you're thirsty, you want to get in their car, you want to drive home in your brand new car, and you will sign it, and that's it. That's how incarnation works. As above, so below. It's the same kind of concept, right? And
Yeah.
at best, they might show you like a snippet or a trailer. How many people have been fooled by a movie trailer that looked great, and they went to see the movie and it sucked?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. You
Right?
know what, Dan? We're still getting feedback. Do you mind maybe trying like lowering your fan, or do you have like anything running in the background?
No, absolutely not. I also don't hear anything either.
Yeah, you're not gonna hear it because it's you're in your room, but it's coming through on my end and in the stream. I'm sorry. Not trying to be a pain in the ass, but
No,
it's.
no, I'll go into my settings here.
I'm just wondering if it might be the fan.
There's no fan running.
Yeah, behind you there is.
Oh, you mean the ceiling
I
fan?
don't know. I don't know if that's it. I'm just taking a guess. I don't know.
I'll shut it off. It's gonna get
Uh,
hot in here.
or maybe just like lower it.
It's
Well,
gonna,
we'll see. We'll see if that's even it. Maybe it's not even it.
when it's that low, it doesn't make any
Can't
noise.
hear
Can you hear me now?
you. Yeah, I can hear you now.
I said when it's that low, it doesn't make any noise.
Yeah, I don't.
Um,
What is going
but
on?
no, it's off now. So, and
Uh,
then my computer fan isn't running.
yeah, just I don't know.
Nope, there's no noise in my room.
Okay. All right. All right. So anyways, yeah, it's I wanted to pop up a so someone I forgot to send you this clip, but it's basically kind of an encapsulation of some of the stuff that we were talking about. So it's with excuse me, with Grant Cameron. Are you familiar with Grant Cameron? He was big in the UFO kind of
The name sounds familiar.
yeah, I
Let me
mean, mhm.
let me ask you something. Just count to like five in your head and tell me if the noise is still.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk, I hear it.
See, only when I talk.
It seems to be like when you talk, yeah.
Oh, it
I
has
don't
to
hear
be.
anything in the background. I wasn't sure if it was the fan. I mean, I don't think it's the fan though, because it's so feel free
Because
to turn it on. Yeah. I'm
see,
sorry, guys. You know what? I got a spare mic around here. I'm gonna mail it to you, so that way you have something that you can plug in. But anyways, no, I mean it's manageable. I mean it's all right. It could be way worse.
format your channel. I'm looking at my settings here.
You don't happen to have like another set of earbuds, do you?
No, these I had to scramble. I remember where they were because I've been using them so long. Who uses plug-in earbuds anymore?
Hmm. Well, I do.
um,
I try to avoid the
uh,
Bluetooth as much as possible.
device select enhancement.
All right. So while Dan's trying to take a look at that, I still think it has something to do with maybe the earbud headset, but that's all right. Um, you know what? Maybe while I get this video queued, maybe I mean I know you probably don't want to, but maybe you can go back to your cell phone. That might work better.
Let me, yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah.
try to
So
plug this first and see what happens. I'm
yeah,
playing around with the settings. Yeah, you show your clip. I'll be watching
yeah.
it.
Okay. Cool. All right. So while Dan's working on that. Okay, so Grant Cameron is a interesting fella. I I was so like I would say probably around 2013, 14, 2012, somewhere around there. He really like changed. Like his big thing back in the day was UFO research in relation to presidents, right? And he made the rounds. He wrote some books, and he essentially took a different turn, like completely. And it's interesting because he's gone deep in the consciousness and summoning and connecting with orbs and all sorts of stuff. But he's also still kind of stuck in some areas that, quite frankly, in my opinion, as much as like I value a number of things he's put out, like he's still kind of stuck in certain things. But that's just my opinion. But he's he's a really smart guy, and he's a good channel to follow. Now you're gonna find some real gems once in a while with him, and then you're going to find some stuff that you're like, why am I watching? So I'm just, I just would rather be honest. I know, it's just the way it is. Probably how everyone feels about any channel that you watch. You're always going to find gems, and then you're going to find like what the fuck moments, right? So let's get into this video where he has Kai Dickens on to discuss the telepathy tapes. So I queued it up to this one specific spot that goes into some of what Dan and I were discussing earlier, and some other things as well. So just kind of gives you a little taster about what's out there.
And I pointed out to you this idea, like we have a lot of people who you are in contact with Dean Radin. There's a lot of people who have done telepathy tests for maybe 150 years. And you get these people who are doing Xenor cards or whatever, and their rate is supposed to be 25 and they hit 30 and they go, look at this, 30% is statistically significant. Your kids, and this is the part that people are like 100% accurate. It's not 2 out of 3. They're 100% accurate on what they're doing. And I actually pointed out, I point out to you that I had contacted the guy who was one of the top government officials on the remote viewing program. Yeah. And I said, I think you should listen to this podcast. And he wrote back and he said, I am very, very interested and I'm watching closely. So some people pick up the significance of what this is. This guy's worked on this probably since 1972. He's all this sort of stuff. And he knows the significance of somebody who's, and then people don't pay any attention. I'm going, how could you not pay attention to some kid who's 100% telepathically correct? And when you get to the Hill thing, where they're contacts with other people that they've never met in this field. So it defies my understanding how people could not see this as being significant, that these kids are that accurate.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. And, and when we were testing Mia, that was our first girl who's in episode 1, she was 100% accurate with her mom. I mean, you could do anything. It was just unbelievable. And then with her, we tried it with her dad and she couldn't do it with her dad. When we went to go see Akil, who's on your screen back there in New Jersey, it was unbelievable. I mean, he could be across the room with his iPad. We had crew writing things onto a cue card, showing it to his mother, and boom, 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 he'd start writing it. We'd cross it off and then write another thing. Boom, boom, boom. And it was so fun because the crew was getting involved and writing cue cards and writing the things. And then we did random picture generators. And that was where it's like, at that point, that's not just telepathy. His mom isn't beaming the image because sometimes she didn't know what it was. At one point, we pulled up a picture and it looked like a food fight. I thought it was blood. And even his mother was like, what is this? Like, she had no idea what it was. And then he writes paint from across the room under his blanket. I mean, just so, and then, at that point, my camera guy was like shaking and he's like, does this mean I have to believe in God? And it's like, well, you have to believe that there's more, that you have to believe there's more than what we've been told.
Isn't that an interesting jump, right? Like the programming that's involved. It's like, does this mean I have to believe in God? It's like the automatic, we're kind of veering off a little bit, but it goes to the whole thing that we talk about with the soul trap, right, Dan? It's like, does this mean I have to believe in God? Does that, like, that's the automatic kind of assumption that humans will go to because of their pre-existing program, regardless of whatever their belief system is at the time. But they see something that defies and breaks their reality in front of them, and immediately it's like, oh, well, this means I have to believe in God. I have to worship, or not even worship. I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but like, I have to basically resign my sovereignty over to something else that I know nothing about, but I've been taught about throughout, my lifetime.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, I can hear you, but you're kind of low. That's all right. Go ahead, talk. Say a few more things. You're kind of low.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
is it still echoing?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
I can
no. You're not echoing, but you're really low now, and I'm
Okay, hold on a
cranked up the
second.
volume. So
I can fix that.
okay. Sorry, guys. We're working on this. We're gonna get it taken care of right away.
Okay, what about now?
Okay, there we go. So let me just lower you. All right, go ahead, Dan. Let's hear
Okay.
your feedback
Yeah,
on that.
that is exactly I've said it many times, right? If people you have so many examples of, say, an atheist materialist realizing that their philosophy is garbage, and then what do? They just jump onto another garbage philosophy,
Yep.
some religion they picked up. Instead of stopping and saying, what happened to me was I stopped and I said, if the religion I grew up in that I was trying to verify, because that's how I started Overwatch Project, is a bunch of bullshit, then I should be really careful about jumping into some other popular established
Yeah, going from
philosophy.
one bullshit to another bullshit.
Right, and it was through a process of learning about how cognitive dissonance was affecting me, how I could self be aware of myself and all these cognitive filters and logical errors, and that's how I came to the reincarnation of soul trap loose plan through investigation and through just going through a totality of the information and following the clues to where they led and not where I wanted them to lead. And instead, but most people have that immediate reaction. My worldview has just collapsed. I better grab onto another one. Right? Hello? Can't hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I said I'm guilty of that. I've done that in the past. I think it's commonplace.
It's it's kind of like it's very, I guess, because of my background, it was easier for me to not do that. But that's because I had 30 years of investigative experience. So, not to jump onto when my one theory of something was proven to be going down the wrong end or a dead end, to not just jump over to the next theory without doing more investigating. That is the benefit of my work experience and investigations. So a lot of people, I guess, see that's kind of alien to me because of but I understand that if you don't have that experience in your life, you might feel so uneasy when what you think was the path you were going on was right is wrong, that you just want to jump onto this is very uncomfortable. I better get onto Howard Storm is a perfect example of this.
Well said. Yeah.
The super devout, materialist, angry atheist, and his profound near death experience. And even in his own admission, that says that it doesn't fit the Christian doctrines and dogmas, but I don't want to be a big ego maniac and just make my own religion. So he became a Methodist or something.
Something like that. And then, I'm not even gonna, I'm gonna try to be kind and not say anything here.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying that I understand the concept, but because of my life experience, it's kind of alien to me because if I had done that at work, I would have been a horrible investigator.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah,
Um,
especially given your former profession.
right, and I would have never figured out the truth of the matter of things, and it was because of that life. I think I probably picked this lifetime to be able to sort this out, or as Monroe put it, the last timers. They're in that shimmering outer rim area where they're planning that final incarnation to get out of here, to get escape velocity. What he called escape velocity. Hey Mark, do you mind if I take a 5-minute break?
Yeah, no, yeah. I like to try to take a 5-minute break every hour. So I was going to suggest that. I don't know if maybe your daughter or your wife has another headset. Maybe it's Bluetooth or a microphone or something. But if you can
Well,
obtain
I'm
one, that
actually
would be
going to
great.
bounce. I'm going to bounce off of this and come back on the phone. If that's all right with you.
Oh yeah, that's fine. Yeah, okay, cool.
All
Yep,
right, so I'm gonna
sounds
I'm gonna
good.
leave. I'm gonna leave the chat now, but I'll leave the live feed running.
Okay, that's cool.
And
Yeah,
I'm
no, that's fine. We're gonna take a 5-minute break. There'll be music playing. It'll probably actually be like 5 to 7 minutes. So keep an eye on the countdown clock, and we'll meet back here in about 5 to 7 minutes. All right. We'll be right back, everybody. Thank you, Dan. Check out the description for links to Dan's channel. Okay. We'll be right back. Hopefully. Ignore the 10 minutes. It's 5 minutes.
project joined.
All right. One moment, guys. One moment, Dan. Okay. All right. Just working on this here, trying to get us all set up. One moment here. Okay. All right. Let me get Dan up here. Hey, Dan. How we doing over
Yeah.
here?
I'm here.
All right.
And how do I sound now?
Keep talking a little bit.
Yeah. How's this sound?
Overwatch project joined.
Okay. All right. We lost you for a moment, but you're back, Dan. We're not
Okay.
back into the stream, but you do sound a little better.
Okay, great.
Oh,
This is my.
actually much better. Way better.
You know why? Because I'm on my Google Pixel 9 XL Pro.
Actually, now I'm
That's
getting
why.
feedback. I spoke too soon. All right. It's still better than what we had. So that's what matters. I'm going to get you a microphone.
Okay.
I'm
All
going
right.
to I'm going to mail you one. Okay. All right. So all right, just one moment, guys. We're going to get back into this. All right. Just hang in there, guys. We're almost ready. All right. So let's get back into it. Here we go. All right, welcome back to Forever Conscious Research channel and OverwatchProject.com, Overwatch channel. Just as a reminder, these channels are both for educational purposes only. It's always important to do your own research, come up with your own conclusions. All right, so I'm going to get back into this video, Dan, and I think it's a great kind of mini breakdown of the discussion about the telepathy tapes. So let's see what you think about it, and if you want to drop in at some point, just let me know and I'll pause the video. Oh.
Well, you have to believe that there's more, that you have to believe there's more because than what we've been told. And then we, and what I love about the podcast is in each, episode, we kind of introduce another family. We often play the telepathy test that we did with them. And in episode 3, it's just great because there's even crew that had to leave the room, right? Because like sometimes the young man we were testing, Houston, could hear everything. It was very complicated. So we had to get people out of the room, and people were bummed. They wanted to see this. So then Houston, during a coffee break, would have like crew members write something on a piece of paper, put it in their pocket, and he would just write it into his letterboard. And it's not a magic trick. I mean, we all want to record and film and accurately report what's going on. These kids are 100% right. It's more than telepathy. Some parents say it's a sharing of consciousness. Many of these individuals will say, I can see through my mother's eyes. I can hear through their ears. And they will also say that of their teachers. I can't tell you how many teachers have told me, I don't even have to use words when I'm working with a student. I can ask the question in my brain, which is what they prefer. Language is tricky. It's awful. It takes all these senses. The telepathy is easier. So they will ask a question in their head, who was the first president of the United States? And across the room, they'll start typing George Washington, and the little speaker will go off and they'll hear it. It's astounding. It's life altering. Paradigm shifting, I think, what these individuals are showing us they can do.
Okay, now you talked about Mia, one of the talents,
All
and
right,
that's why I hope we can, at some point, you can do
sorry, it's kind of difficult to do this this way, but that's all right. So yeah, I do think it's paradigm shifting as well. The question is will these paradigm shifts amount to anything, Dan? What are your thoughts? I mean, do you think the system's going to allow this to flourish and open minds randomly?
No, not at all. And the system doesn't even have to do anything. Is the way humans are designed as a general whole. So many people, it will not affect the system at all. Because why? Because everything she said there is should be a wake-up call. Like, okay, so communicating with words is inaccurate. It's cumbersome. There was even another part in this video that you're playing where they mentioned that, where the kid just preferred to just telepathically talk because speaking with words was harder.
Difficult, yeah.
Right. And who designed the human body that functions that way? If a little tweak in the brain, which is, obviously the unintended side effect that has caused the autism explosion from us tampering with stuff we don't understand fully with.
Well, see, like, I don't like I'm sorry, I gotta cut you off there, Dan. Like the term us, like that's something like we invaded that country. We did this. Like, I have nothing to do with that decision. You have nothing to do with that decision. It's just like, this is the indoctrination program. And I know it's like semantics and all that stuff. I'm just throwing it out there as I don't like being lumped into the parasitic behavior that is going on here, regardless of whether it's spiritual or war or materialistic or money or whatever the case may be. Like, it's like, we've kind of the term, and I had to deprogram this from myself too. Using the term elites. There's nothing elite about them. They're straight up parasites. There's nothing elite about them. So I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. It's terminology, it's words. I mean, I know what you're saying. We're communicating on the same level, but
right. No, you're right. Yeah. And you're showing the exact point I was just trying to make. Here I am in my head. I know exactly what I want to communicate. Okay. In my head, I'm trying to communicate something, but like you said, semantics, all this other garbage. There are certain phrases I use that if I stop to think, we're trained to use them.
Exactly.
It's not what I meant.
Exactly. That, but it comes out, right? Isn't it crazy?
Right now, if I was able to communicate with you and everybody else listening tonight with my head, with not my head, because not even that's wrong. With my consciousness, non-physical mind. If I was able to communicate telepathically, you would know exactly what I meant. Matter of fact, it would include so much more information, background, it would, source material. I could just beam it all out and you would get it in a few seconds. And then you would be like, oh yeah, you unpack it. And then, yeah, oh yeah, I get what you're saying. But the designer of the human container for consciousness is first of all, it's a crappy design. It's a shitty design. It angers me to think that, oh, it's a temple. It's not a temple. It's more like a seashore bathroom.
That's the cringiest thing ever when I hear people say, your body is a temple.
No, it's not a temple.
No, Dan, it is a temple. Just accept it. It's a temple, whether you like it or not.
The human body is basically like a public restroom. If you were to compare it to objects, okay?
Oh, that's a good one. I like that. That's a good one.
Right? It's a terrible design. It's horrible. The brain, and now you have these psychopaths that have decided to tamper with things, and their unintended consequences is alterations in the brain that have caused autism, which has also caused the ability to have super telepathic powers. And as an accidental, which obviously they didn't intend. Obviously, they did not intend for that. That's because, but they are messing with things that they do not fully understand. It's not like the designer isn't amazingly complex. Whatever designed the Earth realm, the Lelouch garden, the human body. It's not like they don't know a lot. They didn't even care to give us anything good. They gave us a body designed for suffering, designed for pain, designed for very poor the processing of the consciousness, to reduce it down to an unbelievably, if you think of non-physical conscious being as potentially having the power of a deity, because we keep saying immense power. And we have to be tricked. We have to have amnesia. We have to be lured into using our free will, into a state of mind of submission, into accepting authority figures, into all this other garbage that we have going on down here. And then you have this designer that designed all this, and then our ability to communicate is absolutely dreadful. And these people that are autistic, that have telepathic powers unleashed, understand that it's terrible, because there's different levels of autism, different spectrums, and obviously if they can use words and communicate, they find that telepathy is much better. Because why? Because communication through words is inaccurate. It's cumbersome. It takes a long time. I mean, honestly, however long we spent on this podcast tonight, with telepathy, we could have put all this out in probably under 10 seconds. The entire thing.
Yeah.
Sure. Look at all the. Yeah, right. So all the work that we have to do to get what we're thinking out into the ether here for other people to consider, and hours of explaining and showing clips. And if I could just think, I watched this, I've gathered all this information, let me share it to you, and poof, just send it over to you, and then you process it and you're like, wow, that's amazing. Yeah. But no, we have to do it yeah, and I understand what you're saying. Not me. I didn't have anything to do with it.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have brought it up. Yeah. It's just one of those things like you hear a lot. Like
like understand. I say understand, but I really don't understand. I don't stand under anything.
Yeah. Well, I like saying understand. But even understand,
I try to use comprehend or comprehend. Because that's a much better word, and it says it says what the other word is supposed to say without the subliminal message of
putting you knocking you down a peg.
Yeah, sure. I mean, a lot of things in and especially in the English language. I mean, there's websites out there that show this. There are the way our words sound have dual meanings, and you know how that must mess in with the subconscious mind, because the subconscious mind is not able to process critical thinking, linear thinking. It is more image oriented. And so if you say no, do you mean KNOW or do you mean NO? I mean, both words sound exactly the same. You know, like people have mentioned the training to say bless you to somebody who sneezes. But, you know, if you really listen to it, it sounds like be less you, you know, how that could, I mean, there's a whole list of things out there with words, but you get what I'm saying.
100%. No, like it's just like one of those things. It's I've tried to, and it's not easy. So I'm not like ranking on you or anything like that. It's just I've tried to deprogram myself, like when the news says, or when quote unquote alternative CIA media on the internet says, like, oh well, we invaded this country, we invaded that country, we did this. It's like, no, don't lump me in with we, because there is no we. I have nothing to do with said invasion. I had no choice in the matter. You made a choice, and I just happened to be a resident in this clown world country that has, put forth this invasion of someone else. So
sure, everything.
That's all. It's semantics.
Sure. I mean, when you start breaking all this down, not to get too sidetracked, but all these places are imaginary anyway. We just created them out of thin air. Not we, but somebody created. Somebody created them out there. Like, we live in Florida, me and you, right? We live in the state of Florida.
Allegedly.
But but the state of Florida is just an artificially created arbitrary boundary.
Yes,
that somebody named Florida, and it exists and it's imaginary, and this is a crazy world. If you lived in the imaginary, drawn out place of New Jersey, and you were to step 1 foot or 1 foot over into the boundary line where you're in Pennsylvania, you now get totally different laws with certain things. In New Jersey, I'm a felon if I have, if I'm like with gun control. You step over into New Jersey, you'd be a felon. If you step over into Pennsylvania, you're okay. It's an imaginary boundary that people have created, and they tell you that there's a different rule here. Here, we'll put you in a cage, take away your freedom, destroy your life.
Off to Guantanamo with you.
But over there, you'll be okay. That is insanity. That's just crazy. Same thing here in Florida. I can pump my own gas. I go to New Jersey, I can't pump my own gas.
Isn't that crazy?
Right. Aren't we all the same? When a person from New Jersey drives to Florida, they can, and all the states in between, they can pump their own gas. How
I think what
is...
Sorry, that was an accident. Go ahead. So you drive to Florida, you pump your own gas.
Yeah, you're the same human being that you were when you were in New Jersey. How the gas stations are the same. They use the same equipment. They function the same. How is it that I'm the human being can now be, I can safely pump my own gas in Pennsylvania, but I can't do it in New Jersey. It's illegal.
Well, you should know that, Dan.
Well,
you're a gas guzzler.
Yeah. I believe that premise that we just all calmly, most people, I mean, I just tolerate it because there's nothing I could do about it. So that's why I've started my superpowers in real life research, hoping to, if there is a way to get, above the typical what I guess you could call the waking sleep human. And that's the typical person that we see in the world. I mean, most of them are, we saw in the last 4 or 5 years how many there are.
Yeah.
People that are asleep and compliant to anything, any demands. Even this week, they're going to take away an app from 170 million people. Possibly
and they're
starting.
living. Their right to make a living in an insane economy that is screwing them.
Yeah. Yes, and the right to make a living and to freely express themselves. They're going to take the app away for a totally made up bullshit reason that doesn't make any sense when you break it down and you start analyzing what the heck is going on. And then you got 170 million people. That's half the freaking country, and that's actually more than half the country, because when you take away the other with the population as a whole, and you start reducing people down to ages that are too young, infants, and you remove people that don't, that live off the grid. If you take away all those people, more than half the country is using, and we're told that we live in a country by the people, for the people. And you have a few hundred people telling 170 million people they can't use an app on their phone. And somehow there's just some complaining going on about it, but it's not, I haven't seen anything major out there. It's just saying, this is really wrong. It's all so horrible. And I guess I'll just have to submit to the tyranny.
Yeah. Why not? Why not? All right. So we're gonna go back into this here.
Okay.
And it gets pretty interesting with Grant. So, and the discussion
in their head, who was the first president of the United States, and across the room they'll start typing George Washington, and the little speaker will go off and they'll hear it. It's astounding. It's life altering, paradigm shifting. I think what these individuals are showing us they can do.
Okay, now you talked about Mia, one of the talents, and that's why I hope you can at some point you can do a survey to sort of test the kids. Like, for example, if you ask the kid with the hill, you may never ask the kid up the hill, but if you suddenly find out they're all getting this thing, one of the things that Mia came up with and your others came up with is they're able to do foreign languages. And I think you actually referred to the fact that you had talked to Mia, and she's Mexican, so she speaks Spanish, and she answered you back in English. And I think that's how Haley was discovered by Diana-C. Powell, is the caregiver said, how do you say I love you in German? And Haley punched it in German.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about the languages. And this again defies understanding. Like, if you're a skeptic, like, how do you explain a kid who Diana-C. Powell had the one kid at 2 years old singing in Arabic, and he knows 8 languages at 2 years old. And I actually worked with some multiple personality disorder people who have the same thing. I said, are you sure you spoke, you've never spoken Italian? Nope, never spoken Italian, but one of my alters speaks Italian. And so talk a little bit about these kids with the languages, because that is mind-blowing.
Yeah. And so one of the things that we kind of talked about throughout the podcast, the telepathy tapes, is that telepathy is the tip of the iceberg. We can prove that. I think I know prove is a really tricky word, but I think we have proved it. We can prove it. It's easy to show. These kids can do it like this over and over and over and over. So once you believe that, then it's like, okay, then you really have to sit up and listen to the other things they want you to know. And like I said, telepathy is the tip of the iceberg. And one of the things that almost all of them that I've met so far can do is communicate, or at least understand, other languages. And they're not common languages often. It might be Hebrew or Russian or hieroglyphics. And
talk about the hieroglyphics. That was a good one.
Yeah. There's a little girl who's 10. Her name is Amelia. She's in episode 7.
Amelia.
And I love this because there's 3 teachers in the room. It was her speech, pathologist, and occupational therapist, the supervisor, making sure her curriculum is going right. And she was saying she knows other languages, and she would often even type from Spanish to English to Portuguese in the same sentence. Well, her mom and her dad, he's ex-military. She's like a copywriter in advertising. They don't know she knows French a little bit, but that's it. So she's not learning it from the family. And then they said, well, what else do you know? And she said, well, I know a little bit of Hebrew. And they said, how? And she wrote, the rabbi has taught me at night. Well, that's kind of interesting. And then And then they said, anything else? And she said, Hiero. She wrote Hiero, and they wrote like hieroglyphics. I mean, this is so, they're just, what is happening? This is teachers in Wisconsin working with this young girl. And she said, yeah. Well, at this point, they all know that she can read minds. So they are like, well, we have to find pictures of hieroglyphics that we don't know what they are. So they printed out a bunch and had her point to them and say what each one was. And she correctly said what each of those images were. And then they looked them up and she was correct. So that was pretty mind-blowing. And I've talked to this mother and a lot of the mothers a lot about this because they don't know how they can do this. But there's a theory that, again, we're not scientists. These are parents, and I'm a filmmaker trying to work with these parents to understand. Our theory is that if they can understand, their whole world, it seems to be based on telepathy, not language. Language can be very complicated for them. Takes hearing and speaking and a bunch of different like sensory skills, and telepathy, it all just kind of comes in one overall meaning. And so if everything that they're understanding is through this kind of telepathic channel, then if you're receiving a language, maybe you can just understand the meaning and the symbols and the, I don't know, the something behind it all, because it's more coming through them via telepathy than actual language itself. So again, we don't know. Science needs to be looking at this. This is the overwhelming thing I'm asking, begging, is research should look at this. They should work with these kids and figure this out, because there's a lot we can learn.
Yeah, one of the other, we'll go through all these weird things. I mean, the free survey was done on the UFO experiencers. There was 4,000 of them that were surveyed, 600 questions or whatever, and they went through the stuff. One of the things I think it came up was like 70% said that they'd had communication with dead people, and your kids have the same thing. Talk about that.
Yeah, and I would say that often comes up first before parents realize telepathy. So often the kids will be looking around the room and looking at something and get scared. And so often parents have told me that then they become even more scared when the parent says they can't see what they're seeing, because the child might say there's a woman there, there's a man there. So that's scary. I mean, these are still, they're individuals, they're little kids often, right? So it's very scary. And then often they'll say, why are you distracted? You're not doing your work right now. You're not working on, this math with me. And, oh, well, it's because your mom is here. And the mom will be thinking, well, my mom's gone. I know, but she wants to play with me. That type of stuff is very common. Often messages like a keel, and this is a stuff that you can't explain away, said he received a message from an aunt who had passed, who said the family shouldn't buy the land in India. And Manisha, his mother's like, what is he talking about? And he was talking about there's something wrong with the land and blah, blah, blah. And this is a message from this deceased relative. Well, when they went to India about a year later, Manisha brought this up in conversation, and it turns out they were looking to buy some land that had some problem with it. I mean, all this very just strange stuff.
So isn't it interesting, Dan, that we get another glimpse into these worlds colliding? We get the NDE world, the afterlife world, colliding with autistic children who are involved with this research study, only to further present more questions.
Yes, and also, if the human condition with a slight alteration, even though this one is kind of like an uncontrolled alteration, can do all this, then why have we been limited to this pathetic communication form that we have to use right now? Why is the afterlife hidden from us? Because, if...
Well,
I mean, obviously,
many reasons, but all right.
Yeah, I think it's because it's a reincarnation soul farm, and you need people to experience suffering and unsureness, and they don't really know what's going to happen in the afterlife, and they're
Being
terrified.
dumbed down.
You have the religions with their dogmas and doctrines and fear and guilt and sin and eternal damnation. You have the materialists with, you just turn into dirt when you die. I mean, it is insane what people believe with all of this data out here. But you also have to ask the designer of this place and the human being, what on earth could possibly be about love and light when you look at this? and you see just a slight alteration can make you capable of this level of power above the normal human being, where now you can know things, and like all of these things, it just instantaneously destroys the whole. It's it's a school. It's a learning experience. Well, well, wait a minute now. If I can know everything, if I can instantaneously know different languages, including hieroglyphics or any language I want by simply looking at it or listening to somebody speak and instantly understand what they're saying, then what am I here to learn?
And what are you tapping into? And who's to say that what you're tapping into actually has I don't what do you say? Like
Well, I
who's to
think
say it
it's
has
just
anything of value? Like you said, it's like, oh, like if I'm tapping into it, then why do I need to be in this state of existence in order to flourish, I guess.
right.
I don't want to put words
There's
in your mouth,
there's
but that's what I'm
no,
throwing out there.
yeah, the whole learning, it's a school thing, it just falls apart. Well, you don't need a school if you can. Look, our consciousness, when it's unshackled, I think, can know anything it wants to know. The problem is that we voluntarily entered this system where we're shackled, and we are in this, like Rupert Sheldrake. It's one of the first times I think I started to have, thoughts when I was listening to Rupert Sheldrake, the scientist, describe the brain as a reducing valve. But then nobody asks, why would consciousness need to be reduced? Why would it need to be
does it
reduced?
go any further, right, Dan?
Yeah, and then
Why should we question the additional component as to the reasoning why that's occurring?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, wouldn't the next logical question is, if my consciousness has been reduced to this pathetic level, why would it have to be done? Why would that be? What would be what would be the benefit?
The benefit, yeah.
There's
What's the benefit?
There's no benefit for me. What you're telling me is
sure, Dan?
yeah, it all just takes a little bit of critical thinking. It doesn't even take a lot. It's just a little bit.
Don't you dare do that, Dan. That's not allowed.
Obviously,
I'll have to banish you from the Earth Realm Kingdom.
Well, when I get out of here, this is why I think my experiences that I've had, like when I had my heart surgery and I found myself in that astral orange grove by myself, is because there's no being out there that's going to want to come near me and even try to deceive me. It's my hostility level is off. Yeah, they're not even going to try, because I haven't had Robert Monroe level success with astral projection or anything, but I have discovered that when I'm sleeping, I am in some kind of astral void or something. I've discovered it because before, now I'm on a sleep apnea machine, but before that I had a snoring problem, and I had, I think I've mentioned this before, that whole thing where I was awake, I was lucid, I was thinking thoughts and like in my head, and as far as I knew, I was laying in bed, sleeping but awake. I mean, not sleeping, like laying in bed awake, trying to fall asleep, and then I get nudged that you're snoring, but I didn't hear any snoring, right? And then it's almost like I snapped back into my body. So I was out of my body, and then I come back, and there, and I'm like, what do you mean I was snoring? I didn't hear anything. I was awake. And then even now with the sleep apnea machine where I'm not snoring anymore, and I've had this experience where I'm kind of like semi-lucid, but asleep. And I realized that, at night we tend to drift off into the astral. I think that's a pretty known phenomenon, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, in my opinion, factual.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but as far as I know, I am left alone. I'm in like my own little void, my own little space, wherever I am, thinking my own thoughts, just chilling out. And I think it's because I have an extreme amount of protective energy I've generated around myself, an extreme amount of very hostile protective energy. Like, do not F with me. Because, even when I get out of when I pass over finally from this body out, it's going to be like that. Don't show me the light tunnel. Don't come with me with anything or anybody or any thoughts or anything. Just leave me the fuck alone because you're not going to want to mess with me.
Yeah. Your microphone's killing me, Dan. It's absolutely killing me.
Really?
Yeah,
I have
it's like
messages.
it's just it seems like it's okay for a while, but then I'm gonna send you a microphone. It just has to happen. It's
I'm on
just
a
I don't
different
know.
device.
Like everything's fine. It's weird because it seems like the highs and the lows, right? I'm not alone in this, right, guys? In the chat, like I've been
On
messing with the
my,
levels and trying to make this work, and it's just
I don't know.
I don't
On
know what's
on
going
my
on.
side, I have some people that have messaged me that that I've been sounding fine, and they can't tell anything is wrong.
Okay.
Anybody out there? Can you confirm that?
Condenser mic is good. Yes, I have a condenser mic. I'm going to send Dan. It's been sitting in the back over there in storage. I am alone. Okay, all right. So maybe it's just me. Sounds fine. Okay, all right. Well,
Yeah.
everyone's saying it sounds okay. I mean, I'm just okay. All right. Maybe it's just on my end. All right. We'll continue. Sorry. If the
That
chat's
is
saying it's
weird, but
okay, then
yeah,
that's all right. Then that's all
I've
that
seen
matters.
other messages like that earlier. That it sounds
Maybe it's
fine.
just me. Well,
Could be.
it's sort of poppy. That's what, yeah, I keep hearing, like, Dan will talk for a while and it'll sound good, and then like, the levels will just explode. But, I mean, in the recording software, it's fine. All right. Anyways, forget it. Let's move on. As long as you guys hear it okay, that's all that matters. All right. So, going back to the interview.
So the kids seem to be able to communicate readily with spirits, those who have passed, and see spirits. I mean, many of them talk about seeing angels. And this is common. It's not like 1 in 5. I'd say almost all of them can speak other languages, see spirits, see beings from another realm, if you will.
Just listen to what that statement is, guys. Just listen.
And this is common. It's not like 1 in 5. I'd say almost all of them can speak other languages, see spirits, see beings from another realm, if you will. And
almost all of them can speak other languages and see beings from another realm.
And this is why
Isn't that massive, Dan?
Yeah. This is why I think that the symptoms that we see from autistic people are because their consciousness is half in the astral constantly. That
Yes.
they are and there's even a part where they were talking about that, how we like you might have crystals for good energy or stuff like
Sure.
that, and one of them could tell like, oh, this rock has good energy, that crystal is giving out good energy. Like they can, so that a lot of this stuff that you see on these very useful like some of the witchcraft channels that show you how what they do, and like I've mentioned in the past, my communication with Sophia Di Gregorio, she's written several books, and the thing is that it verifies that some of this stuff is actually accurate, that a lot of these crystals are giving off some kind of frequency or resonant frequency that is, I guess, affecting us in the. It's amazing. We live in a very complex reality, and we barely are able to understand what the heck is going on with a lot of it, and we're trying to piece it together as best we can with the abilities that we have. It's very hard to listen. I mean, you listen to this woman, and she knows a lot, but she hasn't put the pieces of the puzzle together to ask the right questions about, these so-called angels or these so-called beings that these people are now able to see. There's no suspicion in the right direction. You either have materialists trying to desperately trying to make this unreal, and then you have religious people trying to fit it into their dogmas and doctrines, but you don't have anybody at all asking the question, beyond that, to probe to see what's really going on. You have me, you, and a few other people, and our subscribers that are interested in this stuff, but that's it. That's all. It's not
Pretty
a big
much.
number.
Yeah, no, it's not. No, that's all right.
Well, if it was too big, the Matrix would clamp down on it.
Well, they already are, but that's all right. Well, we're not going to go down that road because that's a deep discussion in and of itself.
Yes.
And telepathy, of course, is like baseline.
And one of the things that's found in the survey of experiencers is this idea of healing. I think you only mentioned it once. This idea of healing, which comes up often. I think 50% of UFO experiencers say they've either been healed or they're able to heal other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's something, it's interesting because this world is so big, and that's why I'm excited to even start to work on season 2 and explore some of this more. But when I was first vetting families, right? So there was a bunch of families that I talked to before putting them into the podcast. One of the first few things that often I would hear is that the mom would say, "Oh, my son knew that, my niece was pregnant before she even knew. We were at a family party and he said, 'You're pregnant with twins, or you're pregnant with a girl.' And she'd be like, 'No, I haven't even taken the pregnancy test yet. It's not 2 weeks or whatever.' And then they find out, yes, this was true. Or the child will say, 'This person has cancer,' or 'This person has something growing in their knee,' whatever it is. And it turns out to be true. And yes, the healing is they're capable of that. They're capable of, I think, almost anything, like on an energetic or molecular level. And I just want to always be so cautious too. It's not like autism is magic. Autism can be really hard, and these non-speakers have it difficult, and their parents, it's a hard thing, every day just getting through life and having all of society kind of be against you. But these individuals have abilities, and I think it's because they're less connected to their body. They're more connected outside of their body. And whether that's tapping into this great collective consciousness, or many of them talk about being able to go to different dimensions, different realms, being able to see clearly, being able to rearrange energy or waves. I can't explain how or why they can do this, but they can. And I wouldn't have worked for this almost 4 years pro bono if they couldn't. This is all real.
Yeah. One of the things that you related to that, you're talking about them going into the field. It's almost like channelers, where you have people who are relay channeling, and then you have trance channelers who are basically almost the same thing. They're able to shut down the left brain, the verbal center, and tap. And these kids will actually say, they can go, "What's your question? I'll go get the answer." This idea that there is a collective consciousness. And that's what UFO people experience, that 40% of all people who've had a UFO experience say at one point during their experience, they knew the answer to everything in the universe. Or 31% of near-death experiencers say at one point during their experience, they knew the answer to everything in the universe, which indicates there's a field that has all the answers. And you have these kids who are actually can say, "What do you want to know? I'll go to the library and get the answer for you."
Yeah, I would love to just share the story, because one of the most beautiful things that shocked me, right, is when I first started understanding this this world and meeting these families, so often the telepathic connection that was like the most apparent was between a child and one parent or both, and then I found, oh, the telepathic is between often the teachers as well, or the therapists. And then, my mind was blown further when the teachers would often say, I can hear them back. There's like a two-way communication, I think, so that I can teach them better. And I haven't even gotten into this on the podcast yet, but many, many teachers say that their students will like bilocate and show up in their room, ask questions, be in their mind all the time. And it's not just with one teacher or two teachers or three teachers or five teachers, there's many, many, many teachers. And that will say this sheepishly. They're scared they could lose their license. They're scared they could lose their reputation, but now they're coming out. It's like, let it go. But
yeah.
See, I think that's an interesting one, Dan, right? It's like you have those who are afraid to come out and talk about what's going on with their students, like teachers in public schools, private schools, whatever. And they are able to communicate with nonverbal autistic individuals, children, and open up pathways, gateways to communication that maybe it took them a little while to catch on to, but eventually they were able to see through it. And there's nothing demonic about that.
No, as a matter of fact, two things I wanted to point out. First, I always wondered why the CIA declassified the Stargate documents. I always had a theory that if they declassified this with remote viewing and stuff, they must be using something more advanced than this. And that's why this was declassified, along with all the stuff they released about the holographic universe and basically confirming a lot of the stuff that, we learned on our own. But then when I discovered the telepathy tapes, I realized this is what they probably switched to. They probably have a whole section of autistic agents that can do this. And I'm sure that they switched.
Makes sense.
Right. The other thing is this level of telepathy is literally literally we're talking about sci-fi movie, in reality, comic book level shit. And if that is something that is possible, and now we know through these people that other things are also true, all these crystals do have energy that come off, and you can use them in your house to, help your health or whatever. And all the other stuff that they're doing, tapping into the Akashic records, basically also like mediumship, all this other stuff that they're able to do. Then there's a book I read, God Level, or it's called God, Powers and Abilities or something like that. It's by, oh man, I forget the guy's name now. It's on my website, overwatchproject.com. It's in the superpowers in real life research section. And it's a book that describes every account of different types of basically superpowers, supernatural abilities that have been captured throughout history, including teleportation, bilocation, which she mentioned, bilocation, telekinesis, electrokinesis, all of these amazing powers and abilities. If this level of telepathy is possible, then all of those other abilities are probably possible too. Right?
For sure.
So we probably are really much more capable, at least some people can probably achieve. And as soon as the subconscious starts to realize that this stuff is real and lets go of the control mechanisms that, also help prevent you from doing these things, because the subconscious is there as kind of like a gatekeeper. And if the subconscious is programmed to believe something is so, it doesn't let anything else override that. you start cracking down on telepathy, then some of these other things may fall down. And didn't you say that you also achieved some success with like aerokinesis and stuff like that in the past?
Absolutely. I learned from individuals who were talking about this and teaching methods. But you know what the crazy thing is, Dan, is and this was huge for me, and it took a while for me to realize this, is it all boils down to intention. So what is your intention? Is your intention to manipulate reality? Is your intention to discover certain aspects of reality that have been hidden from you, or actively deceived against you? Those are the things that I was trying to find answers to. And there's no doubt, like, even when you were talking about the tinfoil experiment, um, you know, in being able to manipulate the tinfoil under um, a glass jar or whatever, right? That stuff is real. Like, I prove that to myself. Did I film it and put that up there on the internet? No, but um, it's real. I mean, I'll say it right now. It's very real. It's something you can experience and prove to yourself that you are able to manipulate reality. And then, like, we can kind of go down a whole discussion about what exactly that is. And in my opinion, it has to do with intention in combination with magnetic frequencies. Like, there's something where those two things like conjoin, at least in this world, right? I can't speak necessarily for outside of the earth realm um makeup of what this place is all about, but there's no doubt, if you want to work on these types of things, you can do it. It's just you have to have the intention within and want to learn it and prove it to yourself. Like, for me, I was hell bent on proving this to myself, and I proved it, and like, that was good enough for me. um I wish I filmed it. I wish I filmed like that portion of my journey. I wish I filmed more things involving summoning of orbs and anomalies and all that stuff. And there's a bunch of that stuff on my channel still, and there's endless SD cards that have experiences that I saved and documented. But the point is I think this is the big question. How bad do you want to know?
Yeah, I've
And
had.
the extension of how bad you want to know is kind of like, are you going to step up to the plate and prove it to yourself? And I think that answer is easy if you want it. So it kind of goes to the whole cornucopia of research that we talk about regularly. How bad do you want to know? Do you want to prove that this place is one big fat deception? And do you want to prove that intention is king? Do you want to prove that you are a sovereign being and that you can exit the matrix? Well, how
Yeah,
bad do
all
you want
those
to know?
things.
Right? I mean,
All of them.
they all link together. They all link together,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's, again, I mean, it one of the first videos I did on this channel is I said, nobody needs my channel. Nobody needs what I talk about. You can take the format of what I talk about, or what you talk about, or whoever, right, talks about the makeup of what's going on here, And you can take that, what we talk about, and go out and prove it to yourself. You don't need my commentary. You don't need Dan's commentary. You don't need anyone to kind of influence you. You can take the base concept that, yes, there's some big deception going on, and go out and prove it to yourself by investigating experiencer cases. And I think that's huge. Like, this isn't a popularity contest, and I know that's definitely the case with you and me, and like we're exploring and investigating reality, and this place continues to defy us and frankly spit in our face. And
Yeah.
the answers are there. It's just a matter of how bad do you want to know it? Are you willing to put in the time and the effort to go and investigate all the varying different experiencer accounts and come up with the conclusion that with things that we talk about? That's all. It's that simple. So
Yeah, absolutely. It's a combination of all those things for me. I don't want to have this world have dominion over me. I don't want to be a victim of this world, and I want to know what the deception is fully, and I don't want to be subjugated next to a bunch of people who are willingly here, willingly asleep.
yes.
I mean, it's one thing. I mean, if you want to do that, but unfortunately, they are outnumbering most of. They outnumber us, and they are, everywhere. Everywhere you go, you saw it 4 years ago.
Probably by design.
Yeah,
Just throwing it out there. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's just. I'm just saying to myself, if these powers exist, then we can. I've had experiences with clairvoyance several times that were off the chart, and I can't bring it on command. I don't know how I did it. I'm not sure, but I know I can do it. I've had clairaudience where I was able to hear a conversation, and when I was little, I was able to crystal clear, like I was as if I was in the room 3 floors below me in a building, and I was able to hear a conversation that was going on down there. And when I came downstairs, the conversation that I was listening to was continuing from where I left off, and so I know that it was real. And I have had a premonition, like a future dangerous events at least twice. One was so profoundly accurate that in the middle of it, I realized, oh my goodness, this is exactly what I've been repeatedly dreaming about over and over again. So I've did the thing where you look at clouds and you can sort of make them move and open and push them in. I mean, it's weird, but I've managed to do a lot of these weird things. I've had some minor astral experiences, but the thing is that if you can get to these abilities on demand anytime you want, and to be as powerful as the telepathy that some of these people are using, it would be a game changer for a lot of people out there.
Sure. I couldn't agree anymore. Like, that was a big part of my journey, is being able to prove these things. Like, someone's making quote unquote fanciful statements, and I was able to prove to myself that those statements, and in my opinion, breaking them down, like one person I'll state unequivocally, like, had a huge basically, like, they were huge in my development, is Stephen Greer. And I don't like to even kind of state that name because it's like, oh well, he's full of shit and this that, and you know what? Like there are some things that he's full of shit about. But at the same time, he helped me kind of, at least in that moment in time, he helped me open my perception to what was possible. And then I realized that like his quote unquote CE5 protocols and all that stuff was bullshit. And everything had to do with intention. That's key. That's so key right there. You can go out there and experience this realm, this existence, this wackadoo clown world reality, and apply your intention to certain results that you may or may not expect, if that makes any sense. And I'm telling you, like, that this is stuff that you can prove undoubtedly exists. And that doesn't have anything to do with whether it's aliens or spacemen or anything like that. Throw all that aside. It's just that your intention is king. That's what it's all about. And whether you choose to apply that to your daily life or whether you choose to apply that to your sky gazing or your camera or whatever, it doesn't matter. You will experience it if your intention is clear. If that's what you want to experience, if that's what you want to happen, you will get results. Period. It's that simple. But it has to do with intention. It doesn't have to do with you being a vegan. It doesn't have to do with you following these certain protocols or all that stuff. And it took me a couple of years to realize that. But you want to go outside right now or maybe in the next few days and kind of apply this technique with your intention. That's the key thing, intention. Then you can have some amazing experiences, and those experiences they won't stop if you're going to allow it into your existence. And what it does is it cracks open the void within reality, within this existence that we're all living in. And it's amazing. So I'm just throwing that out there for everyone to kind of simmer on and sit on, and however you choose to take that information and apply it to your daily life, it's up to you. But these are things that you can, in my opinion, 100% prove are things that you can do. So
yes,
make
and
of
you
it
have
what
to
you
have the
will.
mind. Yeah, and you have to have the mindset that once this lifespan is over, that once you have unshackled from the silver cord or whatever you want to call it, connection to the physical here, you have unlimited power, and you should not be submitting or humbling yourself to anything. You should just immediately, with your thought, travel out of here. While you're here, though, it is fun to see how far we can get our powers unshackled from just being human and just expanding back to the consciousness we are, so we can use these powers here and have some fun, because it certainly would be a lot of fun to can you imagine some of the things, some of the mischief you can get up to?
100%,
around here.
100%. No, really well said, Dan. I love it. I love it. It's about like there's some sort of like accountability factor too with being able to prove this stuff to yourself. And it opens pathways, gateways, whatever you want to call that, to a greater reality that you have been told your entire life doesn't exist or can't exist. And well, it's up to you to figure it out.
Oh,
Go
yeah.
out tonight.
It exists. It exists. And
100%. 100%.
yeah. And we have an advantage over these people that want to remain stuck in these dead philosophies and religions that don't go anywhere, just go in circles.
And keep you spinning your wheels, and well, whatever happens, happens.
Yeah. I think I'll have to end it around here because I do have to get ready for work tomorrow.
Sure. Yeah. No, we're pretty close to wrapping things up, anyways. I'm gonna play the last 3-4 minutes of this video, and then we'll wrap things up. And if you're interested in coming over to the Truth in Gaming channel, a link will be provided. I don't know if you want to hang in there another 3-4 minutes, Dan, but it's up to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So let's close this out with Grant Cameron discussing the telepathy tapes, and we'll close things out there. Thank you, everybody.
So one teacher sheepishly wrote to me after I think the first episode was released, and she said, I've been teaching in England for a long time. I witnessed this for the first time like 30 years ago, that these kids can speak telepathically with each other. And then one of my students' mothers died. I was close to him, so she asked me to look over him for his whole life. And she's like, what was interesting is he used words for most of his life. He only stopped recently. But during the time in which he was using his words, he was talking about a lot of esoteric things, big ideas, quantum physics and consciousness and this, and Jess, this teacher, would describe herself as being like not that well aware of science and biology and consciousness in the quantum world. I mean, she's just a teacher, right? She's a special ed teacher. And so she was trying to read books to understand what he was talking about. And she told him, like, some of these are really above my head. And the one she was reading at that moment, she's like, I know this is really important to you that I read this. I don't understand it. I can't make sense of it. And he said, why don't you take it out and put it on your hand? And she did this. And then he put his hand over it. And she said all the information that she'd read thus far came into her and made sense. And the whole rest of the book came into her. And it was like this clear download of information. And she said, oh my goodness, like, can you do this with everything? And he said, yes, I can go into the realm, is what he calls it, and find information about anything. And
oh, shoot.
Hello?
What happened? Oh, that's right. It kind of cuts off at the end.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Well, she said enough there for me to make some big comments.
Please do.
I wonder what would happen if one of these people, like who she was describing right there, if I could simply think to them my 20 years of research and see how they interpret reality after they get all the download from me.
Good point. Good point.
I wonder if they would go, oh yeah, that makes more sense. Or maybe the next time I meet one of these astral beings, I might want to ask them a few extra questions or challenge them about a few things. I mean, if you gave them all that information, decades of research and all of that, if they could just take it in a few seconds, it's very interesting. There's a thing about that. It's like absorbing a book, almost like some kind of form of osmosis or something, where you can just hold a book and just absorb everything in it, and then
sure,
that's also a superpower that we probably have and don't know how to use.
That's something we really didn't touch on earlier in the stream, is like how conditioning plays a major factor in all this. It's like if you grow up in the Western world, and I don't even think it's the Western world. It's just kind of, if you grow up in this realm, you're kind of in a position where you're indoctrinated into certain belief systems, and those belief systems take us away from our true essence, take us away from perhaps questioning this realm the way we should be questioning this realm. Seeing the things that are wrong or unjust or evil, right? Those things continually pop up. But if we're indoctrinated from a very young age, and that indoctrination continues in school, through the family, or whatever, then that itself is able to kind of take hold over our perception and analysis of the realm in which we live in.
Yep, that's true. That's why a lot of these people don't ask some of the questions that they want to keep it positive and without looking at any of the negative that's going on.
Sure. So I think that's a good point to kind of leave things at a standstill. Appreciate you coming on, Dan, and thank you, everybody. And I'll be over on the Truth in Gaming channel playing Far Cry 5. That's a kind of spiritual parasite game. And maybe I'll see some of you there. And Dan, thanks again for coming on. Don't forget to check out Dan's website, and all the descriptions are available. All the links are available in the descriptions, and it's overwatchproject.com, youtube.com/user/overwatch channel, and odyssey.com/overwatchproject3. So you can check out Dan at the corresponding links in the description, and look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate you coming on, brother.
Yeah, thank you. Great to be back with you, Mark, and I'm sure I'll see you soon.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. See some of you over on the Truth in Gaming channel, and thank you so much.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Take care.